We'll give just a couple more minutes for others to join, or we still got some people jumping in. So thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll be on in just a couple minutes. Ooh, good morning from SoCal, man. It is early there. Thanks for joining. Let's see, I've got 10:04. We'll go one more minute.
Harvey, you got to frame that shirt. It's the last VMworld shirt.
Yes. Yeah.
We're gonna have to. I got too much change in my life. I got the Cleveland Guardians now, right? Because I grew up in Cleveland. Now I got VMworld is turning into VMware Explorer, and I've already said VMworld Explorer to like 10 people. So
that's perfect. I forgot about the Cleveland Guardians thing. That'll take getting used to.
It sure will.
It'll take getting used to. All right. All right. If I'm doing a good job, you should be able to see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
I gotcha.
Wonderful. Haven't screwed up yet. Let's see what happens. All right, I've got 10:05. I think at this point we can go ahead and get started. My name is Harvey Green. I am on with Mr. Gabe. We're going to talk through a couple things today. Really quick, XenTegra's giving away Bronco. I'm sure some of you have already heard about this. We've got our 2022 drawing wrapped up. We're working on 2023 Work Has No Boundaries campaign, so you'll hear more about that and what the grand prize will be soon. Be on the lookout for that. I'll go through a couple things here and kind of intro myself, and then intro Mr. Gabe, who's going to be the star of our show in just a few moments. But for those of you joining today who don't know anything about XenTegra, whose partner you're on with, we are a value-added reseller, very much emphasis on value-added. We do also have professional services and work with you around solutions, very big on making sure that you have a full solution. Not just, you get this piece or this part, this one puzzle piece, and then nobody helps you figure out how all those things fit together. We are very much about that. Lots of experience in the space. At one point, we tried to bring up a little internal chat around how many years of experience we had across different technologies. And we came up with something like 716 years on our staff, which is a lot more than we expected, to say the least. Again, I'm Harvey Green, and yes, I'm the third. Wearer of many hats for sure. I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina. For those of you who are not from around that area, it's basically Charlotte. Been in the industry now for over 20 years, which makes me feel old every time I say it. Architect for XenTegra. I also lead the charge for the XenTegra Gov company, which is focused around state and local government, education, and sometimes a little federal there. My experience with VMware started all the way back in 3.5, ESX 3.5, which was before they started adding a little I at the end. So been, see Gabe's laughing. Been doing it for a very, very long time. I know, thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. Again, just a little more about XenTegra. We're a value-added reseller. Hardware, software, data center, cloud, doesn't matter. Again, we're very much focused on helping you have a fully scoped solution, fully integrated solution. We're not happy until your end users are happy. How about that? We help out with managed services. We have hosting services as well, consulting services. If you guys want to, keep it to your experts or get your experts trained internally, we help with that too. We do also handle some a various variety of complementary micro assessments to help out across a bunch of different technologies, VMware being one of them, to help make sure that your environment is deployed using best practices, and to make sure that we point out anything that is not deployed using best practices so that you can be safe and secure. Picture on the right there is the founder of XenTegra, Andy Whiteside. And basically his quote there is, the XenTegra business model is simple: build a community and then create solutions that serve that community. We very, very much live by that. That would be all that I have for the brief introduction of XenTegra. I will stop sharing, so my buddy pal, Mr. Gabe Knuth, can jump on and start sharing his screen. Perfect, I got you already. And awesome. I will let Gabe intro himself a little bit, and then hopefully impart you all with all of his great and wonderful knowledge.
We'll let them be the judge of that. So I've never heard the "we're not happy until your end users are happy" thing from you guys before. I think that's awesome. EUC over the past 20 some years, and I'm with you, man. I go back to the 1900s. The EUC from an admin side is all about like making Windows do things that it wasn't designed to do, but to like help the end users. And
that's a perfect description.
and really, like, holistically speaking, all of end user computing, so that's mobility management or modern management and things like that. All of it is about connecting end users to the data they need with the apps they need to access that data. So sometimes those apps aren't just Windows apps, sometimes they're cloud or mobile native or whatever. But it really is all about the end users, and the most successful projects, the most successful people, organizations, partners, vendors, whatever, are the ones that keep the end users in mind. And so that's a really great way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, before you jump in, keeping my end users in mind on this webinar here. This is live, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell already. So we definitely want you to communicate with us. Definitely want you to ask questions. I'll have my eyes on the Q&A box here. So if you drop any questions in there while we're talking about what's going on, we'll try to get those questions in there to Gabe, so that he can impart us with his fountain of knowledge. And beyond that, definitely feel free to ask questions. You can hit the raise hand button. If you want to ask your question live, you can raise your hand, and we'll try to get you in live too, if we got time for that. I'll stop talking, so we do have time for something. Gabe, take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks, man. So look, I'm on like week 3 of my second cold in 4 weeks or whatever. I don't know how to say that. So if you see me like go on mute and dive off screen, it's just because y'all don't want to see me cough. It's not pretty. So, okay, as we get started, so my name's Gabe Knuth. I have been around in the industry for a while. Like I said, back in the 1900s, but for a long time, I was a independent blogger and analyst and stuff for BrianMadden.com, and we put on Bri-Forum and things like that. After leaving that, I went into, when I left that, I literally had sat down, I wrote an article, and then I realized that I'd written that article before, like 3 years before that, and like almost the exact same article. And that's when it clicked in my brain, like it is time to do something else. And so I called around, because I hadn't been an in-house IT guy in a long time. I hadn't been a consultant in a long time. Can't remember last time I was in a data center. So I called around. I'm like, what do I do now? And the overwhelming thing was, you're a product marketing guy now. So I joined FSLogix actually, and was product marketing for them, was acquired into Microsoft, hung around there for a year or so. And then now I'm at VMware, where I'm doing product marketing, and I focus on Horizon and Azure and kind of the intersection of those things. Still though, I talk to a lot of product marketing people over the years, and I'm like, I'm going to be the product marketer that I always wanted to see or work with. So I still try to stay technical and at least a little bit, and speak real about things. So I think Harvey and I are getting along well. So today I want to talk about sort of the overall potential of VMware EUC, where I think we are. But like I said, I'm a Horizon PMM, product marketing manager. And so I'm going to spend, a lot of time specifically on Horizon, because I think that this is the year. If you ever followed us before, the old site, we had this kind of running joke about the year of VDI. And so people kept asking in 2020, Harvey, people kept asking us in 2020 and 2021, like, is this the year finally? And none of us wanted to. It's like sinking the 8-ball on a break, right? Like you just automatically lose, and you don't want to be the guy that wins that way either. And so we didn't want to commit to that still. So what we said was, this, what the year VDI notwithstanding, when the world needed VDI was up to the challenge. And so that's what I kind of leaned on for that time. So anyway, that aside, so we'll spend a lot of time talking about VDI, because again, we still talk about Windows apps a lot, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. But overall, hang on, I lost focus here. Overall, with end user computing, computers are hard. Hang on, I'm trying to get to the next slide. Come on, PowerPoint. All right, we're just clicking instead of tapping keys. All right. So over the last few years, our landscape has changed, and what started off as a reactionary thing, trying to deliver remote work to people we hoped on a temporary basis, has kind of turned into just the way that we work now. Remote work drove up the demand for desktop and app virtualization for business continuity purposes originally. Now it's just the way that people want to work. Some companies were really well prepared for this, and maybe we're already doing desktop virtualization for everybody in their organization, or most people. And so to expand on that wasn't a big deal. Others are still trying to figure out maybe not how they're going to combat and deal with the initial challenges, because we're 2.5 years in, or feels like, or 2 years in. What we're thinking about now is how to do this sustainably and to make intelligent strategic decisions, because originally when we started to do this, we were like, okay, yeah, we get it, desktop virtualization, that's the way to go, let's go. People cut some corners. I feel like I've told this story to everybody on the planet, but there's a neighbor down the street that this is like March of 2020. She called me and said, hey, I got 2 choices for working. They sent us all home. My choices are go back to the office and actually pick up my physical PC and monitor and keyboard and everything, and bring it home and set it up and connect to the VPN. The wide open VPN, by the way, I later learned. Or I can get a laptop, any laptop, but they ran out of loaner laptops, so I have to find my own and get that set up. So I found a laptop. Can you come and help me? And I go down there. It's like 9 o'clock at night. And she pulls out this, like, do you remember the HP laptops that had like tattoos on them? Like 2012 era Vista laptop. Wow. Like it literally was running Vista. And I'm like, man, this is the world we live in. We're like, I'm blowing dust off of laptops with operating systems that hit end of life 5 years ago.
Right.
And so, but that's what their best option was. And so I got it working. I got I had to trick the VPN client into running on Vista. So we got all that stuff going, and business operations continued, but at what cost, man? Because it's like unsecured OS talking over wide open VPN. So they have since changed their ways, but there's a lot of companies that are still kind of repaying that tech debt that they incurred early on.
Yeah, we've run into a lot of that.
It
was we had to do this in an emergency, and now we want to actually do it. that's kind of the conversation these days.
Yeah. Well, and what people are seeing now is, okay, those things that we did, it's hard to regret those, right? It was a weird time.
Right.
But now it's time, you got to untie that knot. But you still have to keep that implemented too, because we still have this kind of hybrid scenario going on. I just heard, I live in Omaha. Omaha has not had much in the way of disruption in the last year or so, as far as like work and life. Meaning you can work at home or you can work in the office. It's always been kind of a hybrid thing. But I hear Philadelphia is seeing an increase in cases, so they've got their mask mandates back on, and that probably is going to come with it some more like choice in terms of where you work and things. So it's not always going to be COVID related, but what we're seeing is that this hybrid workplace is here to stay, whether it's COVID or whether it's just the new way that everybody's going to work. Hybrid is here to stay. The numbers that we saw early on were predicted like something like 80% of the workforce of the office workers went home and only half of them came back to the office. And it's the rare time where the survey from March of 2020 still perfectly applies in March of 2022. Right. And so I mean, it is a situation that I think we're going to be living in for a long time. And what's cool about that is, VMware has a bunch of tools to make that happen. And so that's kind of where we can move on. This slide wasn't supposed to take 5 minutes. But having lots of different vendors and trying to pull all that stuff together makes it more difficult to kind of have this hybrid end user focus. And so that's where VMware comes in. And that's where like our partnership with XenTegra can help you as you start to overcome these challenges. At a little bit lower of a level, these challenges sort of take the shape of, remote work is required these days. Whether or not it's used 100% of the time is a decision that's up to you. But remote work is required to some degree. There remain scaling and capacity issues related to, whether I can get the hardware, whether if I want to keep the stuff on prem or, whether I can put the stuff in the cloud. There's budget and resource constraints associated with each one of those things. And then, there may not be as extreme cases as like Vista with a wide open VPN, but like security and compliance are still issues. And those are the areas where maybe some corners were cut, a couple of years ago. So these are the more immediate trends that we need to address as part of our embracing an overall hybrid workforce. And VMware's done this with our Anywhere Workspace technologies, which we started talking about this last year. It's the goal of Anywhere Workspace is to deliver a multimodal employee experience. So they have, the same experience, however they're accessing and wherever they're accessing from, whether that's phone, Chromebook, laptop, iPad, whatever. I guess actual laptop. We always get swept up talking about the newer devices. We want to secure this new distributed edge. And, because things were a lot easier when the users were on corporate owned devices, on corporate owned networks. And now they're on networks that they built with devices that they bought. So we still need to find a way to keep that secure. And we want to do that with as much automation as possible, because we don't want to make more work for ourselves or for the users. So we want to kind of do this in an intelligent way. And the way we do that is with, kind of our three core EUC components. That's VMware Carbon Black, VMware Workspace ONE, which includes Horizon in this diagram at least, and then VMware SASE. You can imagine, as a Horizon person, I wish Horizon had its own thing, but I think we like the balance of 3 and 3 on either side of the slide. So today, I'm no Carbon Black expert, I'm no SASE expert, but I can certainly talk about our Horizon capabilities as it relates to Workspace ONE. And so that's my plan today. When we look at hybrid work, it's easy still to get swept up in all the sexiness of the modern management of the newer devices and things like that. But I don't know too many people that want to work in a virtual desktop from their iPad, right? You know, there's still a lot of Windows involved with the world today. Maybe there's thin clients and stuff like that, but there's definitely native apps, there's definitely SaaS apps out there, but VDI, Windows applications are still at the center of a hybrid workplace. And I think that's going to be the case for a long time. I don't have anything where I specifically talk about apps in here, but if you just think about how many Windows apps are in a typical organization, it's crazy. And to migrate that functionality to a SaaS service or a native app or something like that for mobile devices, that's going to take a long time. And so, you know, even if you have, it depends on who you talk to. Some customers will say that they know exactly how many Windows apps they have. Those customers are probably lying.
Yes. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah. Maybe you do have a good grasp, but there's a lot of customers that when you ask them how many apps they have, they're like, I don't know. So, you know, some customers have hundreds of apps, some have thousands, and it's not that uncommon to run into a customer with thousands of apps. But think of it this way: if you have 200 Windows apps in your organization, that could be anything from, you know, Office to this one little thing that accounting needs in April of every year. If you count all of those apps, and if you could migrate each one of those apps at like the rate of 1 per month to the cloud so that you didn't need Windows anymore, it would still take you 17 years to migrate all of those things. So desktop and app virtualization is going to be around for a long time. And that's why it's so pivotal to a hybrid work scenario, so that we can secure their remote access, let them work from anywhere, and deploy it to whatever platform we need it to do. And that's where VMware Horizon comes in. Because we have all those, you know, these multiple challenges in setting up desktop vert environments, one of the key things that we built Horizon for is for hybridity. And this is something I feel like we've been talking about for 10 years, but when everything started becoming more important, you know, all of a sudden we couldn't get, even if we were dedicated on-premises VDI, you know, operators, we couldn't get hardware to expand our environments on premises in the drop of a hat if we wanted to expand or start from scratch. And so we had to put workloads in different places, you know, on premises and in the cloud. And so having hybrid support so that we can do that, so that we can manage all those different environments as if they were one environment, was pivotal. Simplifying the management across the board, not just because of hybridity, but certainly building on that, is also something that's important to us, because again, it should not require a fleet of people to manage these things. So we want to make sure that we can deliver desktops quickly, easily, without having to repeat tasks over and over again, depending upon how many pods or locations or whatever you have. Security is a huge deal for us. It's all built on this trusted digital foundation that is VMware vSphere, or the SDDC, the software defined data center. And then user experience as well. You'll notice I picked up the pace because it's 9:26 already. So user experience for us is also integral, because as we talked about at the beginning of this thing, if the users aren't happy, the project wasn't a success. So when we talk about Horizon and the hybridity, is that a word now? Hybridity.
It is today.
Yes, it is. So when we talk about hybrid delivery and management of virtual desktops, from VMware's perspective, this is what it looks like. We have the Horizon Control Plane, which is a cloud service managed by VMware that delivers core services like brokering, image management, app management, which is really just VMware app volumes, but delivered or managed from the cloud. We've got desktop virtualization, specific monitoring capabilities, lifecycle management, and a host of other things too. All of this stuff is part of the Horizon Control Plane. And then these services can be applied and used to manage environments that run on premises, that run in the cloud on VMware vSphere as well still. So this is like vSphere as a service, which you can get from Dell and VMware Cloud on AWS, Google Cloud. I think Oracle has it, Alibaba Cloud. There's a few other VMware Cloud partners out there, and Azure. And so you call up those those hyperscalers, and they will provision you vSphere servers that you can then deploy any vSphere workload on, including Horizon. And then on the far right, we have desktop as a service, which is our Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure product, which is running natively in Microsoft Azure. And the cool thing there is that VMware is the one that deploys the Horizon infrastructure. So you don't even have to do that. All you have to do is worry about the desktops and applications. Microsoft takes care of the hardware and the data center components. VMware takes care of the infrastructure. And you just worry about desktops and apps themselves. Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure also can integrate with the features of Azure Virtual Desktop. So you get Windows 10 and 11 multi-session and things like that too. A little bit of a dive into Azure, but really you could swap out this this next section here with anything. You can run Horizon wherever you need, and we can talk about how to make that decision. But even if you have an on-premises Horizon running on this SDDC, by the way, again, software defined data center. I don't know if people know this term or not, so maybe I should change it. In the center, we have Azure VMware Solution, which is the same Horizon that's on premises, but running in the cloud. And again, this could be VMC on AWS or Google or Dell or whatever. And then on the far right is that native Azure solution. And this is the only place that we have this DAS solution. And so this is the desktop running directly in the cloud. No matter what, the Horizon Control Plane runs on top of all of those with all those features we talked about. They all include Workspace ONE access, and that gives the users one interface to use to access all of these things. It also gives single sign-on identity integration with other identity providers and things like that. And all of this is available via one single Horizon license. And so you buy a Horizon universal subscription license, and you get access to deploy Horizon anywhere you want, and it comes with all of these capabilities. And so, we've seen customers have a lot of success with this over the last couple of years. With so many options, though, it's difficult to figure out, maybe challenging to figure out how to pick. And sometimes it all depends. Sometimes customers come to us with a cloud already in their back pocket, like we're already in Azure, let's go with that. We're already in Amazon, let's go with Amazon. But if there's no pre-existing relationship with the cloud, or maybe there's relationships with many clouds, we kind of turn the discussion around and start to look at, where your strategic priorities lie. And so we kind of measure this as a balance between cost, time to value, and degree of change. And maybe you've heard this before in like business school 101, like you can have something fast, cheap, and easy, but you only get to pick two.
That's right.
Yeah. In this case, it's not quite so exclusive of the other thing, but it's still a balance. You can't have it all. And so the way we kind of do it is when we're looking at Horizon, if we want to deploy the existing Horizon that we have on premises quickly and with the least amount of change to our procedures and our skill sets and stuff like that, that's where deploying on Azure VMware Solution, just a vSphere as a service platform, really helps out. That's where, VMware manages the Horizon Control Plane, maybe in this case, Microsoft manages the virtualization part, but the customer is still responsible for managing the Horizon infrastructure and the desktops and apps, which is exactly what they do on premises. So 1 second. I wondered how far I'd get without having to do that. So don't I sound better?
You do.
So this is where, so the same exact procedures that a customer does today, deploying the Horizon infrastructure, pod managers, things like that, all into the cloud instead, and but managing them exactly the same way. On the other side, if cost is the most important thing, there we go. That's where we turn to a DaaS solution like Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure. And in this case, I mentioned this before, VMware manages the Horizon infrastructure and the Horizon control plane. Microsoft manages the SDDC and the hardware. And that means that the customer only has to worry about managing the desktops and apps themselves. What's great here, though, is that even though, let me turn on the pen. So even though there's a difference here, the Horizon control plane is consistent across the board. And that means that these environments can coexist together. So app volumes, for example, can be used to package an application one time and deploy it to on-premises or the cloud, no matter what, even though the operational model is a little bit different. And so, and we actually have customers that are using all three of these things side by side to handle different workloads. Maybe Office users are using Horizon Cloud, and wow, how did this old slide get in there? An Azure Virtual Desktop. Maybe old things just, I've updated this slide. I don't know why that's there, but whatever. Horizon Cloud and Azure Virtual Desktop for certain use cases. And then maybe they're using Horizon on AVS for developer use cases where they need more control over the specs of a machine, or what have you. Or maybe they need some of the underlying features that vSphere provides when doing a desktop virtualization project. We actually had a customer that was able to do this exact thing. They had an on-premises environment. They deployed their call center users into Horizon Cloud with Azure Virtual Desktop, and then they deployed their developers into Horizon on Azure on Azure VMware solution. By doing this, they were able to shut down a couple of different physical call center buildings while keeping everybody still employed, but the buildings were shut down, so they were able to save on those costs. The upkeep, maintenance, heating, cooling, what have you, of those facilities. So I think, very cool stories that are based around the flexibility of all of this. There we go. What's nice, though, is that because it's all the same Horizon, we are talking about the same set of tools, the same set of capabilities across the board. And I like to look at this in terms of value. There's a couple of different ways you look at it. One, you can look at it as being able to reduce costs in the cloud. You can my favorite way to look at it, though, or at least to start the discussion of value, is removing the need for third-party tools, because Horizon comes with so much because it's so mature. We add user environment management capabilities on top of what you get already with FSLogix. I came from FSLogix. I loved FSLogix. FSLogix solved a lot of problems that go back as far as the last time I was an admin, like OST file roaming and things like that. Yes. But it didn't solve any of the problems of profile management, right? I couldn't pass or enforce settings. It just saved whatever the user had and let that follow them. So while it solved the distribution of it and following the user, the roaming of it, enforcement and actually setting the policies and things like privilege elevation and things like that were left to other vendors. And that's something that VMware does with Dynamic Environment Manager very well. And when I joined VMware, that was one of the first meetings I set up, was I got to find the DEM people. I got to tell them let's just assume FSLogix is the de facto standard and talk about how we work with it. And when I got to them, they're like, yeah, that's what we do. So I was like, shoo, okay, good. So anyway, so DEM, Dynamic Environment Manager, this used to be called User Environment Manager, but then the modern management, like the VMware UEM, the Unified Endpoint Management, people got to it. So we changed the name. So this does all of that. This does policies, privilege elevation, printer mapping, drive mapping, things like that. The people in our SE team call DEM the Swiss Army knife of VMware Horizon, and they're very proud of its capabilities. And it works with all the stuff that FSLogix does. And it means since it comes with Horizon, you don't have to go out and buy that from somebody else. Next on here is app packaging. That for us can be one of two things. It can be VMware app volumes or thin app. VMware app packaging, when I'm talking about it like from the control plane idea, the service that we deliver from the Horizon control plane, it can ingest thin app packages, app volumes packages, even MSIX packages. And you can assign and deliver those packages from the cloud to the desktops wherever they happen to be. So we're able to simplify that application management process and integrate with other solutions, so that you don't have to, again, go out and find another solution for that, or so you don't have to continue doing things in the old, super heavy script based way, using SCCM and stuff like that. App packaging for us deploys very easily. It's the kind of thing you could do, on a slow afternoon. So it doesn't require you to go in and completely change the way you do image management. You don't have to be an app layering expert or anything like that to do this. For us, we want to make it simple, and we've, I think, succeeded pretty well into that. Cloud monitoring service. This is actually desktop specific cloud monitoring or desktop monitoring. If you've used any other VMware products to do desktop monitoring in the past, you'll know that it probably wasn't great. It was, we have tools that were made for server monitoring, but not for cloud or not for desktop. What we've done with cloud monitoring services, we've made it desktop specific. So we're not like aggregating processes together. I know iExplorer.exe is taking up a ton of resources. I want to see which tabs are taking up the resources. And that's what we can do with CMS. And the last thing on the third-party tools is the global broker that eliminates the need for GSLB and stuff like that. Historically, if you had multiple pods that were connected before we built the control plane, you still had to go out and buy a GSLB service so that you could load balance between all of your different pods across different locations. Because Horizon Broker now lives in the cloud and has visibility into all of those different locations, you no longer need GSLB. And so there's a significant cost savings there. So like 5 minutes I've spent talking just about removing the need for third-party tools. There's value at each stage there. And I think that personally, I think that that's the most intriguing value discussion when it comes to Horizon. The hybrid architecture, the management cost optimization, these things, allow us to continue supporting our end users, delivering them the applications they need to access the data that they need and to remain productive wherever they happen to be. All of this stuff is pivotal. But let's face it, all these discussions come down to value and to cost. I will say that the cost optimization part of the management, that as we start to on-prem, it's easy to absorb little inefficiencies here and there in the system. But when you start to go into the cloud and you're paying by the minute for stuff, those little inefficiencies can add up to quite a bit of money spent on cloud costs, cloud consumption costs. And so we have orchestration built in. We have power management capabilities built in that help make sure that we don't have a whole lot of unused resources fired up that we're paying for, that you have to pay for. And then finally, on the user experience side, obviously this is king. And if it's one of the things I'll give training sometimes to like new people into end user computing. And that's the first thing I focus on to them is, this is desktop virtualization. This is why it exists. And before we continue, the user is the measuring stick for this. So if the user is not productive, we didn't do our job right. And so our user experience for Horizon, we continue to grind away on this. We now have fully featured clients on every platform you can think of. We've got our own blast protocol. That blast protocol, by the way, it has something called adaptive transport, or BEAT, blast extreme adaptive transport, and it adapts to changing network conditions on the fly. And that's one thing when you've got a few remote users and most of your users are on premises. It's a completely other thing in terms of level of importance when the users are sitting at home, maybe up in their makeshift office in the attic that's 3 floors away from the access point that they installed in their own basement on their DSL line. We have to make sure that the end users have a good experience regardless of what their connection is. And so to that end, we have this adaptive transport. We also have optimizations built in for real-time collaboration like Teams and Zoom and so on. And then obviously GPU support too for those more advanced workloads. Harvey, any thoughts there? Because I got a cough.
No, I mean, you said a lot and you've gone through a lot. And I guess the big idea and the big reason why you've had to go through so much is because so much is already built into the product. These are things that our customers are looking for, that we help them implement, that we help them basically optimize and get the most out of it. This is, again, talking through this, being able to take out some of the third-party tools, that super important to be able to not only cost justify, but hopefully save money based on current spend based on what they're doing today. And I talk to people all the time about they can't always just measure spend in dollars. Sometimes spend is in time, spend is in admin, spend is in admins being able to take vacation and actually have it be vacation. So there are lots of other things, soft costs that go into things like this, but being able to get all the way across the chart to having the end user work from where they want to work on whatever device they feel comfortable with. I mean, that ties it all together, right? You can do all of that and give your actual admins, quality of life, and not pull out all of their hair. I mean, that's a win-win. Your sound has gone garbly. You have entered the wormhole. Time out. All right. This is I won't call it TV, but it is almost like live TV. So ladies and gents who are on with us, I haven't seen much in the way of questions yet. This will be a great time to get them in if you have them. And when Gabe jumps back in, we can just bombard him with all kinds of questions.
Am I better now?
You are much better now.
Okay.
You even beat the actual bombardment of questions I was trying to build for you while you were gone.
That's funny. All right, let me reshare. That happened when I came back from the cough and I thought I had it licked, but I guess not. So, okay. Yes, this is not pre-recorded.
It is not.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I don't recall. Okay.
All right.
So,
well, you know what that means, right? Next slide.
Next slide. Right. We've only been doing this for like 2 years now, right? Like we should have this figured out by now. So okay. So all of these things that we've been talking about, we can do, we can do a lot of stuff with VMware Horizon, but we also rely on an extensive ecosystem of partners. These are just a few. And I have, Remo 3 AppCure Liquid on there because they can help with applications. They can help get applications migrated from one platform to another. Even if you've lost control of your base image and don't have the original installers anymore and things like that, we can rely on companies, companies like you see here to extract applications from the base image, get them into app volumes, and then use app volumes from here on out to manage them.
I'm sure that never happens though. Nobody just doesn't have their install files, and that never happens. Those companies that used to write the software being out of business, no, that's never happened.
Right. Or, or the in-house app that was written and the guy hasn't worked there in 15 years. And that Cold Fusion app that still for some reason exists. Yeah.
Oh,
There's,
don't get
unfortunately,
me
it happens
started.
too much. Yeah. I love listening to the stories from guys like you, Harvey, that are out there doing this. And you're like, what? It's a I'm sorry, a 3270 emulator. Like,
Right.
yeah.
That's when I get to do the timeout.
Yeah.
It's timeout and technical file. Like, no,
Yeah.
just
Who uses
you're out of
Lotus
here.
Notes? Right. So we can, we have an extensive ecosystem of partners that we can use that we can rely on for help with that kind of thing. And we also have partners like iGel for thin clients and being able to repurpose endpoints as thin clients. And obviously there's other partners out there that along the same lines. ControlUp is a partner of ours that helps with monitoring if you need to take that to the next level. And obviously XenTegra is a partner of ours too. And we're doing a really nice job, I think, working with XenTegra, strengthening our partnership and making sure that XenTegra has all the tools they need to help you out, and then hopefully we're providing the support that XenTegra needs to help you out effectively as well.
Absolutely. I'm completely here to bring all these puzzle pieces together and help you pick the right ones that fit your puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's kind of, we're winding up here, but I hopefully I've done an okay job between coughs and reconnections and stuff like that to kind of show where I really feel like VMware Horizon is at the center of our Anywhere Workspace vision. I know we've got all these other things that get a lot of press these days, but at the end of the day, getting end users access to their apps and desktops, I think hinges on in this new hybrid workforce, hinges on VMware Horizon, hinges on desktop virtualization, and then to really bring together the full user experience and to satisfy our security and compliance goals, and all of that is when we fold in the SASE, Carbon Black, and the rest of Workspace ONE is how we build that complete vision that actually sets us up for the future, that gets us out of reactionary mode and gets us into building out a strategic hybrid workplace platform that can stand up to our abuse into the future. We've got a few key examples I wanted to share. Are honestly, I'm not even going to read these all. I just want to focus on that large insurance firm on the left hand side, and actually this environmental services company is the one I talked about that had some workloads in natively in Azure, some on Horizon on Azure VMware solution, then some on-prem. But this large insurance firm here, they came to us. This is a origin like COVID story, like March of 2020. They came to us with zero desktop virtualization at all. And they had 35,000 agents deployed in the field with, that had desktop computers in an office that they needed to get access to, their work apps and processes so that they could stay in business. And so we went from no desktop virtualization to 35,000 virtual desktops in, it took 5 days to deploy it, and about a week worth of time, like burning the midnight oil, a week's worth of time to prep that environment. But still, you couldn't deploy 35,000 virtual desktops in 2 weeks on-prem. You couldn't even acquire all the hardware and unbox it in that amount of time, right? It would have taken 6 months at least to do that. But with the power of the cloud, the benefits of VMware Horizon, the help of Microsoft, the help of a partner, we were able to get that done in, comparatively no time flat. And so that I just love the speed of that story. I think it's impressive. We've got customers at larger scale, but from a speed perspective, I don't think you can beat that. There's a few public references out there that we can share: Aon Credit, Carhartt, and Scotia Bank. So there's more information on all of these if you follow these little short links down here. They are all unique, not necessarily all COVID related, but still, I think, very compelling stories. And then the next steps for anybody that's watching and has made it this far through the raspy voice and technical difficulties, XenTegra and VMware can help you with a proof of concept and a pilot, or to just learn more about all of this stuff. There are resources out there that are available. Obviously, you can call XenTegra, give Harvey a call. He'll stop his Orlando vacation, I'm sure, to talk.
Some vacation.
Yeah, right. What? Come on, this isn't a vacation. But there's also some key resources out there if you want to kick the tires yourself. You can learn more about Azure Virtual Desktop stuff if you haven't heard about that. Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure hands-on lab. These are really cool. These hands-on labs that we have. There's also just regular Horizon 8 hands-on labs. You can actually go and it'll take you through on a guided tour of what VMware Horizon or Horizon Cloud on Azure is all about from a deployment to a management perspective. Again, this is, I don't know if you can do it over lunch. Maybe you can do it. Certainly you get a slow afternoon. That's the kind of thing you can go through pretty easily. There's a free trial. There's actually this Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure link for a free trial. This is a free trial for all of Horizon. So you can get access to it that way. And then if you want to get down into the technical details a little bit more, there's the Mastering Horizon Cloud on Microsoft Azure it's called a learning path in VMware Tech Zone. Tech Zone is our super technical site with blogs and stuff like that. And in Tech Zone is where you'll find this path that will take you through from, what is Horizon Cloud to, how to get integrated with your own Azure subscription, and including all the FSLogix and stuff like that. So tons of good information out there. That's all I've got. So we've got time, a little bit of time left. We can do Q&A. Harvey, you and I can tap dance. I can make the puppet wave. We can do all sorts of stuff. So.
See, I was saving that for a grand finale.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I do have a couple questions populating in. I'll start with the first one. When is Horizon going to integrate better with Microsoft Teams? In this case, he says some of his users try to do Teams meetings and Teams calls from within their VDI. And sometimes they're having to switch back and forth to run Teams on their endpoint device. So Gabe, I'll let you start, and then I probably will jump in.
Yeah. So honestly, this is the first I'm hearing about this because I know that Microsoft will bring us in because we have such good support for Teams. So I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't have an easy answer for that.
Well, and I guess my answer kind of piggybacks onto that. There are lots of ways in which Teams has already been integrated pretty well with VMware Horizon. I think that what we run across a lot is that there are times that either there are policies not in place or the end client that the user is using was built in 1998 and doesn't have the power to run Teams. And a lot of times, even if it wasn't built in 1998, I know you guys know I'm kidding, but sometimes people will go out and buy a brand new thin client, hey, we got these $100 thin clients, and we're passing them out like candy because they're $100 thin clients,
right?
And then trying to run this very rich type of virtual meetings, and you got your slideshow going, and then you got your virtual background going. All of those things take CPU and memory the same way they do any other time. And so, we have lots of conversations around that too. So I guess my response to that is not only, again, we can help try to identify some of the things that are out of whack in order for you to have that kind of rich experience. But there are lots of customers who are pulling this off on a daily basis. So I'm sure that we would be able to help you figure out the things that are in the way of you being able to do that. And if some of those things do happen to be something built into Horizon, then we're more than happy to take that up so that we can all get the same great integrations that we want from that perspective.
Yeah, obviously, if there is an issue, we want to know about it. Unified Communications has a lot of moving parts too, and so there could be something with the devices that are being in use. the actual hardware being used, if there's phones involved, that kind of a thing. So yeah, an interesting question. Obviously we want to help that out, but that one's new to me. I don't often hear that. So by all means reach out though, and we can try to get that fixed. I see that next question there about, is the solution available in Israel? We don't currently have control plane resources set up in Israel. There are several in Europe, Ireland, UK, Germany, but nothing specifically in Israel. I can't speak to the Azure components. So it's possible the Azure VMware solution, which is an offer from Microsoft, runs in a Israeli data center. It's also possible, if it's AWS or somebody else like that, those the vSphere as a service, I'll just say to generalize it, can be run natively there. But the control plane itself that offers up the management does not run in Israel. That doesn't mean like the user data itself and the company data stays in whatever region you have these things deployed in, but the management layer is coming from somewhere outside of Israel. I'll put a link here in the chat to all the resource locations for us. And so when you go there, all you have to do is click on Horizon Cloud control plane instances, and you'll be able to see where all of those instances are.
All right, last question, and it looks like it might be the last one we have time for either. Do you see better performance with certain thin client endpoints with Zoom or Teams over using Horizon?
Can you answer that? Because
I can.
Okay, that's great. Because you have more hands-on, with the actual end users here. So
yeah, so remembering some of the slides, a few slides back, one of the partners that Gabe brought up that they work well with is IJO. We do a whole lot. See, there it is. Didn't make it up. We do a whole lot with IJO, and they have been very much one of the technologies within clients. Again, IJO offers hardware and software thin clients. I know for some people that might sound crazy, but you can actually purchase an IJO thin client that has the IJO operating system on it. Day one, you just take it out of the box, plug it in, and do what you need to do from that point. But IJO also offers their thin client operating system as software, and you can use that by converting one of your older thin clients or older fat clients for that matter to an IJO operating system, so that you can elongate the cycle that you're keeping that hardware. Or you've got the option to utilize IJO's UD Pocket, which is actually just a little flash drive that has their software on it. You can plug it in even to your computer you're on today and boot to that operating system, do what you need to do within that operating system, shut down, and then boot back up whatever you have on your laptop. So laptop or a desktop.
And just because it'll boot on like a Pentium 3 machine doesn't mean that you can do Teams and Zoom over it.
That goes right back to that other question.
Right.
So both Teams and Zoom do have recommended requirements for you to meet. And I make people laugh all the time because a lot of us technical folk are used to, oh well, Windows has always had their system requirements, and then they have recommended, this is what the system requirement is, but then this is what we recommend you have.
Right.
And this is kind of the same thing. You can run IJO with this. But if you want to run IJO with Teams and Zoom, you need this. And it's not because IJO can't do it. It's because both Teams and Zoom and any other kind of web client, or even what we're on today, these things have requirements that are above the normal requirements for just the operating system. So we have to approach them in that way and be more vigilant to making sure that we're meeting the requirements of our software, not just the operating system.
Yeah, it's desktop virtualization is not, our intent is not to tell you that it's going to be cheaper. Our intent is to tell you that at the end of the project, you're going to have more capabilities, more features, be able to support users in more locations. If you save money, that was an accident. At least that's what I like to say. Maybe you don't say it that way. But
and that's why I put so much of a premium on quantifying cost, because cost isn't always just in dollars. You're paying dollars for all of the other things. You're just not thinking about it in that same way.
Yeah, and the savings may come from other like cost centers as well. So, you know, the IT budget might be larger now, but that company I told you, the environmental services company that was able to shut down a call center, you know, that comes out of a different budget.
Big deal, right?
On the bottom line, yeah, there was value there, and desktop virtualization created that opening.
Right.
So
absolutely right.
All right. On that note, any other questions? I don't think so. I don't see any there.
It's a wrap.
Awesome. Well, Harvey, this has been awesome. The cat now is bugging us because, you know, work from home.
Nice.
So,
well, definitely a big thanks out to everybody for attending today. A big thanks to Gabe for sharing his brain with us. I guess I'll still use the puppet as a very nice send off.
Okay.
Why don't you wave to the people?
We can do that. Somewhere I got to find the original video for this thing, so it doesn't just look like I'm the weird guy with the puppet in the background. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I think I still like it with you being the weird guy with the puppet.
who has the same haircut. Yeah,
that's right.
So
yeah, we definitely appreciate your time today, everyone, in joining us. And if you want to learn more, I will actually stick my email address out in the chat right now. You're funny. I don't know if that was to me or to Gabe, but we'll both take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. So cool. My wife doesn't always think so.
Yeah, mine either. It must be something weird about that.
It's all right. Harvey and I think we're funny, so we're glad you do too. So, all right, all. Well, have a good day. Thanks again for joining.
Yes, thank you.